What's up, Hope City Church? How you guys doing today? Man, it's an honor for me to be here. I love the fact that I get to hang with you and minister with you to you today. I love your pastors, Pastor Chad and Amy. They are fantastic. I know you don't need somebody else telling you this, but I want to tell you this because we've known them since we went to Bible college together. And so known them for many, many years. You are blessed to have such pastors to lead your church. Can you recognize that today? Can you honor them? Can we do that? Their heart, their vision, they love you guys. And this is an incredible church. You guys are growing. You have to add services. You just added a fourth service. Wow, I'm excited to be able to come during this season of growth and all that God is doing. Wow, wow, wow. I just want to say, way to go, guys. This is an amazing church. I'm so glad that you are here. And I love your city. Got to say, I love your city, love Kansas City. I attended with my middle son, we attended a Royals game like in May or June of this year. Come on now, I'm checking out your Royals, having some fun here. And then do we have any Chiefs fans in the house? We got some Chiefs fans in the house. See the jerseys, the red, sporting your colors right on. And I got to tell you, I have Patrick Mahomes on my fantasy football team. Do we love each other yet? Do we love each other? Is this good? Okay, so yeah, I got Patrick Mahomes going on there. And so I've also attended a game at Arrowhead Stadium. Went to, yes, and Gahana Field. What is that called? GH. What? Yeehaw Field at Arrowhead Stadium, right? Okay, there you go. Well, so this happened many years ago, and this also kind of steps into, I'm going to fully disclose something right here. So I did 23 years of being in full-time, well, I've been in ministry over 30 years now, but 23 of those years I was doing ministry in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I became an avid Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Now, hold on, guys. You already said we love each other, okay? We established that. You can't go back on that now, all right? We love each other. Got to stay in that zone, all right? But Steelers fan, and I was around this area, around Kansas City many years ago, and a friend of mine who was also a Steelers fan, he had moved around this particular area. He heard I was in town. He said, hey, I got tickets to the game. The Steelers are playing the Chiefs. Would you like to go to Arrowhead Stadium? I'm like, yeah, of course. I love sports. Let's go. I'm a fan here. Let's do it. So, my friend's kind of crazy, all right? He's a little crazy. And I'm like, maybe you shouldn't go crazy at this game. Maybe, because we're in different territory. But you know what? He didn't listen to me. He painted his face black and gold, put on the jersey, got the terrible towel. And I'm like, I think this is a bit too much. I think we should fly under the radar. He's like, no, it's going to be cool. It's going to be good. I'm like, I just wore wore a Pittsburgh Steelers shirt, tried to play it cool at the game. When something good happened with the Steelers, he's up going like, whoa. And I'm like, I think you should sit down. As people around us kind of like, I'm like, this is not good, But long story short, Chiefs won the game. Yeah, Chiefs won the game. And so we're walking out, with our head. By the way, the atmosphere in that stadium, you guys, wow, the bowl, the noise, that was one of the best sporting events I've been to. Kudos to you guys. I just got to hand it to you. But we got beat pretty bad, so we're walking out, with our tails, head between our legs like this, tails down. We're just like, respect. Yes, you guys beat us, kind of. And so we're just kind of walking out like this, being humble. And so we're walking to our car. It's kind of dark, getting later in the evening. And we see these three guys with Kansas City Chiefs jerseys on, and they're kind of following our movements. They're coming at us. We're walking this way, and I'm like, okay, let's kind of shift where we're walking. We tried to do that. It was now obvious they had a bead on us, all right? And these guys were big dudes, much bigger than we were, and then we couldn't, they came up to us, and now they started to swear at us. And the biggest dude put his hand in my chest. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? I want to tell this guy who's about to beat me up that my friend is the Steelers fan. Okay? I just now became a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'm the newest member of the fan club. He's the one you want to get. That thought went through my mind. And then the other thought that went through my mind was, why were we stupid enough to wear Steeler gear to this game? I'm thinking, I told you not to do this, right? And then this is what happens. And I honestly thought at that moment, this is over for me. And when the guy put his hand in my chest, something just came over me in that moment. And I looked that guy back in the face and I said, you want some of this? No, I didn't do that. I'm just kidding. I wanted to run. I legit wanted to run, thought my life was over. It flashed before my eyes. I thought, I'm toast. And honestly, in that moment, God showed crazy favor to us. He showed us there's a better way than what's about to happen right now in this moment. This lady came out of nowhere wearing a Kansas City Chiefs jersey and stood in between us and the three guys that were really large and about to beat us up. And she was like a small lady. And she said, oh, guys, back up. They're with me. And I'm like, who are you? And then I thought, yeah, we're with you. We're tight. We've known each other a long time. We go back, And so I'm just confused in this moment. These guys step back like something happened to them that I didn't see. And so they just leave the scene miraculously. And this lady in the Kansas City jersey said, hey, I got you covered. I'm going to walk you to your car. And then she kind of proceeded to walk us to our car like she knew where our car was. And I'm like, what is happening here? And then she walks us to our car, protecting us from everything that's around us. And then we get to our car. I'm so confused. I turn around and she's nowhere to be seen. Like she's gone. I actually believe God released his favor on us by sending an angel to protect us from crazy Kansas City Chiefs fans. That's actually a true story. And maybe you're thinking that wasn't an angel, that was just coincidence. Hey, that's fine. When you tell that story, you can just say it was coincidence. But don't be surprised if you get beat up. And then you'll want to call it an angel. Well, the other moral of the story is, since God protected us as Steeler fans, that's proof that the Steelers are also his favorite team as well. Hey guys, hold on, it's okay. He loves your barbecue. He just likes the Steelers, okay? No, I'm just kidding. We're friends. We already established that. We love each other. A scripture, Proverbs 22, verse 1 says, a good name is to be more desired than great wealth. Favor is better than silver and gold. We're in a sermon series. There is a better way. The better way is called favor. How many of you know that favor in that moment of confrontation at the Kansas City game at Arrowhead Stadium, favor, was a lot better than silver or gold, right? It didn't matter how much money I may have had or didn't have. What I needed was God's favor on my life. And so how do we find the favor of God? Everybody say favor. Sometimes we might think that God's favor is just something that kind of happens out of nowhere, but it goes beyond that. The truth is I can position myself to receive God's favor. That's what we want to really lean in on today, that truth. You see, experiencing God's favor is more about being in the right position than something random that just happens to us. See, God's not up there just sprinkling like favor dust from heaven, and whoever it falls on is really fortunate, like, boom, I got the favor dust. And if it didn't fall on you, like, too bad, you lose out. That's not how it works. And let's not confuse favor with favorite. God doesn't give favor to people because he likes some people better than others. Oh, he likes them, they got favor. Doesn't like me, I don't have favor. Not how it works. That's not how God's favor works. That may be how some human favor works, but God's favor is different than human favor. God's favor actually has a lot to do with how we position ourselves. It's way more intentional than it is random. So the good news is anyone can position themselves to receive God's favor. Isn't that good news? Yeah, we can. So how do we do that? How do I do that? Where do I begin? Is it hard? Is it difficult to achieve? We're going to unpack this for the next few moments. You see, there was a king of this empire. His name was Xerxes. And he was searching the empire to find the next queen. And he narrowed the search down, history tells us, to probably about 400 ladies. And these ladies were most likely forced against their will to participate in a year-long process to prepare themselves to be presented to the king, and only one of them would be chosen to be the next queen at the end of that year process. And these women received special beauty treatments, a special diet, and housing arrangements in the palace, and this was all part of the process of being selected for the next queen. One of these women was a girl named Esther. She honestly didn't have a lot going for her in her life based on a lot of the circumstances that had taken place. You see, her parents died when she was young. She became an orphan. She was then adopted by her cousin Mordecai. And then she was part of this group who got exiled into a foreign land, taken from their own country, brought to a different land in this hostile nation. She was also part of a minority group in this foreign land. Then she was taken by the king, forced to leave her adopted family in order to be a part of this new selection process for the queen. So we can see that Esther didn't have this life that you would look at and go, man, I want that. Like, I want to be her. No, it wasn't that way, okay? But despite all these challenges, in Esther chapter 2 in the Bible, there's 3 different times that this Bible story tells us that God's favor, everybody say favor. God's favor was on her life. God really favored her in a special way. In verse 9 of this chapter says, the young woman Esther pleased him and gained his favor so that he accelerated the process of beauty treatments and the special diet she received. He assigned 7 hand-picked servants and then gave them all best quarters, living quarters. How many of you know that's favor? Like favor, other people didn't get this kind of stuff. She did. Then in verse 15, it says, Esther gained favor in the eyes of everyone who saw her. Not just some people, but everybody. They're like, whoa, favor on this woman. And then verse 17 says, the king loved Esther more than all the other women. She won more favor and approval than did anybody else, and she was eventually made the queen because of that. So all the favor from God that Esther received allowed her to become the next queen, and as a result, God was going to use her in a significant way. Now, when we talk about God's favor, what are we talking about? Here's what this means as kind of an operational definition. We'll put that on the screen. When we talk about this, we're talking about what God can do for us that we cannot do for ourselves. Okay? That's God's favor. I like to describe it as an unfair advantage that God just graciously gives us. Because when there's favor on our lives, some people, they'll look at us and they'll be like, hey, that's not fair. Right, it's an unfair advantage from God. You see, the Hebrew word for favor, it's often used in the Bible to describe the character of God. And it can be translated loyal love. So this word and concept is likely used in the book of Esther to suggest the presence of God was upon Esther's life in the form of favor. Isn't that cool? The presence of God in the form of favor rested on her life. How many of you want that? Oh man, I want that in my life. It's a beautiful thing. We also are aware that positioning ourselves for God's favor is not about manipulating God. It's not about manipulating other people, just trying to get what we want. It's about aligning ourselves with God so He can work through us. But again, this favor wasn't just something random that she received. She actually positioned herself properly to receive God's favor. And we can have God's favor on our life by positioning ourselves properly as well. Today we're going to look at several ways that we can position ourselves to receive God's favor. And the first way is this. We can position ourselves by having patience in preparation. This first scripture we looked at as Esther was taken into the palace and she got favor from Haggai and she got all these special beauty treatments and ahead of the diet and the special best living quarters. I want us to notice out of this that before Esther ever went to meet the king, she went through a preparation period. And we know from the rest of the story that this preparation period was an entire year. So for 12 months, she got these treatments and a special diet and food, and there was this waiting and uncertainty about the future as one day went by and the next day, and time's going on. But you see, God's favor often follows faithful preparation. During those 12 months, Esther could have tried to rush the whole process she was in. She could have allowed frustration to take over. She could have turned inward and had a lot of self-pity. She could have complained, God, why did you allow this to happen to me? What's going on? Why am I being held hostage against my will? I never wanted this. God, I didn't sign up for this. I have no freedom now. People are telling me what to do, telling me when to come, telling me when to go, telling me when to eat, telling me what to eat, telling me to do these beauty treatments. God, what is going on in my life? I feel like I'm a slave now. She could have had a poor attitude. She could have allowed anxiety to take over because there's just so many things she didn't know what's going to happen next. She could have badmouthed the people in charge who created this situation that she's now going through. But guess what? Esther didn't do any of those things. Instead, she patiently walked through this preparation process. And this was a key part of her receiving God's favor everywhere she went, with everyone she encountered. This reminds me of a time I needed to quickly prepare some burgers on a grill, and I was short on time. I was pressed for time, and I'm not a good cook anyway, so this was like a disaster waiting to happen. So I jacked the flames up really high on that grill. Flames are dancing all over the place, and put those burgers on the grill. Well, man, the outside of those things quickly looked like a prize-winning piece of meat. Enter that thing in a hamburger competition. Might have even won a prize here in KC. I know you guys are famous for your meat. I'm just saying. But man, it could have won a burger beauty pageant contest, in my opinion. But when I bit into that thing, it was pretty much raw on the inside. Man, that thing was still alive. Like it was making cow noises still, all right? Not ready to eat. What was the problem? It hadn't gone through the proper preparation process. I hadn't been patient enough to do it properly. I didn't embrace the preparation season of the burgers so that they'd be good enough to eat. You see, patience and preparation is an important factor in positioning ourselves to receive God's favor. We need to embrace the preparation seasons of life. Too many of us, we want the promotion without the preparation. We want the platform without going through the process. We want the blessing without the effort to build it. But God does something deep. God does something meaningful, significant, necessary on the inside of us during the preparation seasons. What we need that's taking place on the inside of us is being developed for what we will eventually face outside of us in the future. And when we faithfully and patiently go through those times and allow God to do what He wants to do inside of us, it releases His favor as well. Maybe you're in a preparation season right now, or maybe you just came out of one, or maybe you're about to go in one. Can I just tell you, don't despise it. Don't despise it. God is developing something inside of you that you're going to need at the next level. Hey, God's preparing you to receive His favor. And maybe it's that difficult job that you're working right now. Or it's a season of responsibility that's stretching you, and you're just not comfortable, and you think you're going to break, and you're like, can I bend anymore? Can I stretch anymore? Oh, this feels so uncomfortable. Or maybe it's a situation you're caught in the middle of something, and it's just crushing the life out of you. Or maybe it's a time when things seem to just have unraveled, and nothing is going the way that you planned or the way that you thought. Instead of resisting your preparation, embrace it. In fact, the sooner we embrace it, it often accelerates the release of God's favor on our life. So when we resist the preparation process or the seasons, we're often resisting or preventing God's favor from coming on our life. So let's ask God, what are you teaching me in this preparation season? What skills, what traits, or wisdom am I developing right now for a future assignment? Man, let's submit ourselves to whatever God wants to do in our life during the preparation season. Let's stop fighting God and start partnering with Him. And then we can ask God to release His favor as a result. See, your preparation is never wasted. It's positioning you for future favor. The second way we can position ourselves to receive God's favor is through submission to godly counsel. In verse 10 and 20, it's almost an echo of one another. It says, Esther did not reveal her ethnicity or her family background because Mordecai had ordered her not to make them known. And this happened again in verse 20. You see, even after Esther was taken into the king's palace for this year-long preparation, she continued to follow her uncle Mordecai's guidance. And we remember that Mordecai had adopted her as a child and raised her after her parents had died. So now she had a higher position in the land than he did, but she continued to submit herself under his guidance and his counsel, even though the roles had kind of flipped and reversed during this season. Why? Because this wasn't some blind submission to somebody with an ulterior motive, some dark motive. It wasn't controlling leadership. It wasn't just this crazy controlling family member. No, it was wise submission to godly counsel. He had her best interest in mind, but it's the principle of submission to godly counsel that's so important here. It kind of reminds me of a visit to the dentist that I had. I had lost a large filling. I needed to replace it, and my opinion of just dentists in general have never been very good. You know, you go in there, you get shots in your mouth, get some Novocaine, then there's drilling and there's pain, you know, and then terrible noises and fear and anxiety, and your heart begins to race and your blood pressure goes through the roof. You know, my opinion has just been kind of like, do whatever you need to get done and then get out of there. Anybody with me on the dentist? Like, man, goodness. But I received some like professional guidance or counsel in this area about a really good dentist that I should go to. They said, Cullen, you've been going to an old school dentist. You need to change that because your experience is going to be better. So I followed the counsel that I received, submitted myself to that, and I tried out this new dentist. Well, when I walked in, I explained my fear and anxiety about the dentist, and I was talking to him, and then he said, you need some nitrous oxide. Well, I asked what that was because I'd never experienced nitrous oxide before. He says, it will make you calm and happy. Well, I've never been calm and happy at the dentist before. So I'm like, give me some of that, you know? After a short while, I began to feel like I was floating. I was calm and happy. Started drilling a little bit, and then he stopped, said, just want to do a check-in, see if you're in any pain, you're doing all right. I said, doctor, I'm not in pain. In fact, I feel so good, I may be in the seventh heaven. You know, things are going very well right now. Maybe I'll stay here all day, you know. Process was done. Then they said, hey, we're done now. Going to flush this out of your system with some oxygen, you know, get the nitrous oxide out so that you can go home, safely drive home, clean it out. And I'm kind of thinking, you know what? You don't have to do that. Nitrous oxide and me, we become pretty good friends. We're tight, kind of like each other. We can just stay together, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, I might want to come back to the dentist again pretty soon. You know, it's like Dad's Day was coming up. My family asked what they could get me for Dad's Day, and I'm like, some nitrous oxide. Another trip to the dentist. But you see, my experience at the dentist had changed because I took the advice and counsel of somebody who recommended me a new dentist, right? Well, in much the same way, when we fail to submit ourselves to godly counsel, we often experience less than optimal results in our life. We can just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, nothing changes. But when we receive and submit ourselves to godly counsel, it often positions us for God's favor. Because the same heart that's necessary to submit ourselves to godly counsel is the same heart that's necessary to submit ourselves to Jesus. It's just the truth. So one of the reasons why submission to godly counsel positions us to receive God's favor is because it demonstrates that our heart is properly positioned towards God. That's why it's a big deal. And I've heard so many people throughout my ministry career say things like, well, I have a hard time, you know, doing what somebody tells me what to do. In fact, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. Well, can I tell you, that attitude, that perspective often reflects a bigger heart issue. If we can't submit ourselves to godly counsel, then we actually can't submit ourselves to God. Because the same heart is necessary to submit to both. And submitting ourselves to godly authority is like submitting ourselves to God because He's the one who put the godly authority in our lives to begin with. You see, many people actually miss God's favor because they reject godly counsel. And it's a heart issue. Our heart is often closed to receive God's favor. We block it because of our heart posture. So many times we're like, but I don't have God's favor. I see this person, they got God's favor all on their life. It's because many times we've blocked the favor of God with the posture of our heart. And we wonder why. And then it's also a practical issue as well. Because God often positions us for favor through the godly counsel of others. But if we're not open to it and we're not willing to submit to it, then we miss out on God's favor. So we need to ask ourselves the question, who are the people that God has placed in my life that represent this godly counsel? Maybe it's a mentor, a parent, a spouse, a friend, a spiritually mature individual, maybe a connect group leader, a life group leader, a small group leader here out of the church, maybe a pastor, could even be a boss. And then we need to ask ourselves the question, how do I respond to them when they give me advice? Now let's take it one step further. How do I respond to them when they give me advice I don't like? That really shows something about our heart. What is the posture of my heart towards receiving godly counsel from others? Because this also reflects the posture of my heart towards God and positions me for favor. The third way we can position ourselves to receive God's favor is through authenticity of character. As we look in the story, we continue to go through this. It says when Esther's turn came to go to the king, she didn't ask for anything except what Hegai, the king's eunuch keeper, the women suggested. And because of that, Esther gained favor in the eyes of everyone who saw her. And then when she was taken to the king, she won more favor than did anybody else. And she was made queen because of this. You see, Esther could have brought almost anything she requested to bring with her to see the king. That was a privilege that was extended to all the ladies that were a part of this process. In fact, most, if not all, of the other women were believed to have brought like excessive jewelry, elaborate clothing, all these kind of crazy gifts to present to the king. But instead of going extravagant, looking to impress, or instead of trying to be somebody different than who she authentically was, which is what many people do when they get into a position of fame, of influence, of popularity, they change who they are. They become somebody different. But Esther chose to have restraint, and because she chose to follow the advice of Hegai, in that moment she demonstrated humility, wisdom, self-control, genuineness. She wasn't trying to be somebody different than who God created for her to be. And then when she was brought and presented to the king, she didn't do anything special, didn't put on a facade, didn't have just the right gift to try to win him over, didn't present him with anything unique. She just offered her authenticity of character. And that released the favor of God upon her life. And ultimately, that's what impressed the king and said, there's something that stands out about her that nobody else has. He couldn't even put his finger on it, but as the favor of God released through her authenticity of character, and she became the next queen. It wasn't so much about her physical appearance, it was about something much deeper. Her authentic character distinguished her from the hundreds of other ladies. Her authentic character is what caused her to stand out, and it's her authentic character that helped position her to receive God's favor on her life. God's favor is not primarily attracted to talent, education, appearance, position, money, ability, or any of those things. It causes me to think about one of the most tragic examples of this in history is Michael Jackson. I mean, he's known all over the place for being the king of pop. He had world-class talent. It basically changed the music industry forever. But in spite of his talent and money and fame and fortune, I mean, his personal life and character was almost always surrounded with controversy and allegations and questions. He ended up dying from drug misuse and abuse, and his character and his conduct kind of left a shadow over his legacy because of all that. And this is a reminder that greatness and skill and money and fame and fortune and talent, all those kinds of things, it doesn't produce or it doesn't sustain greatness of character. It just doesn't. But many people still try to use those things instead of or in place of character. But God's favor is attracted to authentic character. So Esther was like a magnet that attracted God's favor because of her authentic character, and that positions us for God's favor as well. Authenticity of character and favor go hand in hand because as we increase our responsibility and influence due to God's favor, it's the authentic character that's going to be the strong foundation for us to stand on long term. It's the authentic character that's going to help stabilize us over time. It's the authentic character that allows God to trust us with more. Are you with me today? Fourth and final way we can position ourselves to receive God's favor is faithful in stewardship. When we look at the entire portion of our story from today, we see that Esther was faithful at every point to steward the opportunities that came her way. When we talk about stewardship, what are we talking about? We're talking about the responsible and careful management of something that is entrusted to my care. Not just finances, it's everything. It's everything that's entrusted to us. And in this case, we're talking about stewarding opportunities. With every opportunity that came her way, she was ready. She didn't view any of these opportunities as too small or too large or too insignificant. She didn't shrink back in fear. She didn't sabotage herself with negative self-talk. She didn't become arrogant or entitled. And because she stewarded the opportunities well, it positioned her for God's favor. It paved the way for her to ultimately fulfill the divine purpose that was upon her life, which happens later in the story. But it all started with God's favor from stewarding opportunities at the present time. Reminds me of a story, the story of Hal Donaldson. He grew up in a poor home. His dad was a minister. At the age of 12, his father was killed by a drunk driver. His mother was seriously injured in that accident, and she really suffered physically for the rest of her life because of that. And because Hal was poor himself, he always had a heart for the poor, for those who were poor. After college, he still didn't have much, but he was inspired to steward or do something with what little he had at the time. So he and a friend started handing out groceries from the back of a pickup truck to migrant workers in California. He was faithful to steward even the small opportunities that came his way or the ones that he helped to create. And as a result, that's how Convoy of Hope started. It's now one of the largest and most effective faith-based relief organizations in the world, with a goal to feed 1 million kids a day by the year 2030. I know they're one of your missions partners. You're doing one day to feed the world with Convoy of Hope in December. But it all started from a seemingly small opportunity in the back of a pickup truck. And because of the way Hal has been faithful to steward and to represent stewardship, God has favored his life and favored Convoy of Hope as well. The truth is, God entrusts resources to those he trusts, or those who have shown themselves to be faithful. But many people, they miss God's favor because we're waiting for the perfect opportunity. Oh, we're waiting for the big opportunity. We're waiting for the glamorous opportunity. We're waiting for the significant opportunity. And then we neglect the small opportunities that are right in front of us every day. Other times, we may procrastinate with the opportunities that are given to us. Or we approach them like half-heartedly, like they don't really matter. Or we have a poor attitude about them. I wish this was something else. I wish it was what this person had. And because we miss stewarding the current opportunities right now, we miss out on God's favor. What are the current opportunities that God has placed in front of you right now, either big or small? Your ministry roles right here, serving your Hope City Church. Your relationships, your education, your resources, your job, your time, your finances, your season of life. And then ask the question for each one, am I stewarding this well and being faithful in the small things? How we steward our current opportunities can position us for God's favor with even more opportunities in the future. We have to ready ourselves now so that we're ready for what God brings us in the future. God's favor comes when we ready ourselves. And I'll close with this. We've got to understand that God's favor in our life, it always has a purpose that goes far beyond ourselves. The ultimate goal is not just to receive something. Look at what I can get, and look what's on my life, and look what I can store up. No. The purpose of God's favor is to fulfill our divine purpose as we make a difference in the lives of others around us. Can we all stand to our feet today? Let's all stand to our feet. And I want us to do this. I want us to turn our face towards heaven. Maybe you want to close your eyes, and let's lift our hands like this. We're going to lift our hands because we're putting ourselves in a posture to receive the favor of God. I want to pray a prayer of favor upon your life today before we leave. So I want you to receive this. You can also pray along with me. God, right now, may God favor your life here in this place today. May he favor your friendships. May he favor your relationships. May he favor your marriage. May he favor your kids. May he favor your grandkids. May he favor your family. May God's favor be on your finances. May blessing and abundance be released on your resources, on your job, on your bank account. May promotions come to you from all angles. May he favor you with health. May sickness and disease leave your body. May strength and healing flow from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet. May he favor you with protection. When your enemies come at you in one direction, may they flee in 7 directions. May every plan of the enemy be destroyed over your life, and may every plan of God be accomplished. May God favor you with what seems like an unfair advantage everywhere you go. May he favor you with divine connections and opportunities that defy logic. May he favor you with his presence and loyal love, just like Esther. May he make your difficult ways smooth and turn your mountains into pathways in your life. And may he favor you as goodness, grace, and blessing chase you down everywhere you go in Jesus' name.